We usually have Brett with the beats over here, but we Brett's out teaching in the world, so I guess we got to do something a cappella here, Mark.
I was thinking maybe you could just beatbox,
Yeah, I got you. Now we're probably best just going into facts and numbers.
right?
Oh man. I will say though, DJ Khaled's All I Do Is Win is a good always a good hype song for me in the morning. So that's what I started off with today. So
There you go.
we're going into it with the right mentality. Beatbox, man. I don't know. I don't know if y'all. It's one of those be careful what you ask for situations.
Right.
Not while this is a recorded call.
Exactly. Okay. I think I got that all set up.
Yeah.
Okay.
So see, yep, we got people joining over here. Mark, I don't know about your morning, but I've woken up to a busy morning between, updates and news
Yeah.
around, and we'll probably get into some of this, but what I'm going to start off and say sounds like slightly overreactions on some of the you know
On the
bobbleheads.
economic news.
Yeah, so we'll
Yeah.
talk about that here in a minute, but
Yeah. Yeah. We'll
uh,
run through the county numbers real quick and then we'll
yeah.
dive into that because I've definitely got something to say.
Oh yeah, this is going to be a fun one, y'all. All
Awesome. All right.
right.
So just looking at Fulton County, last 7 days, we've got, and I can never remember, for some reason, it doesn't have the titles of the rows on here.
Mhm.
So this is going to be really hard to do. 1026, I know is actives. So actives are increasing. Looks like pendings are slightly up at 136. Closing slightly up at 51. Um, Everything else, I couldn't tell you what each row is without looking at the title. And since the titles are not showing up today, we're not going to talk about it.
You gotta love technology sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's see.
But let's take a look at DeCAD. If the technology gods allow me to pull up DeKalb
Mhm.
County. Okay, let's see. Here we go. Active, under contract, coming soon, pending, and closes the bottom one. Okay. So last week, 641 into cab for actives, and then 191 closed.
Yeah.
So which makes sense because it's, includes the end of the month, right?
Yep.
So we should see a slight increase there. And it looks like pendings are up slightly as well.
Yeah, the expired. You saw the expireds though on there. That's right above the close. That last
Yeah. Yeah, it went from
so
24 to 113. So a lot of people's
yeah.
listings, let's see, let's get back to that. Yeah,
That's
113. So a lot of people's listings expired at the end of July.
and that's exactly what Brett and Toya were talking about last week. So
Yep.
we definitely keep looking out at that number. We'll see it here with Cobb as well, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And I like what Rick threw out there. I think it was last week, if not a couple weeks before. Of you want to, keep your eye on those. Everyone's jumping on those like hawks right now, but keep at them, right? Add them to your database. Figure out how you keep touches on those, because that's they get a little tired of the phone calls at first.
Yeah, for sure. And if you can figure out a way to um, stop by an expired listing and, have some sort of conversation in person, that might be a better way to go because you'll stand out
Absolutely.
from all of the bombardment of calls they're getting.
That's it. All right.
Let's see. And this is Cobb County. So we've got 513 active. So actives dipped a little bit, probably because a lot of them are expiring. Um, Pendings and active under contracts, 88 active under contract, 188 pending,
Yeah.
25 coming soon. So it's a little dip in coming soons. And then down the bottom, again, another big jump in expireds and a big jump in closings because we were at the end of the month.
Yeah.
Nothing too big, too unexpected there, but I do think it's worth noting that expired that you pointed out. That's something we should continue to be watching because that's where there's going to be a lot of opportunity this fall.
Well, and speaking of opportunity,
Speaking of opportunity, mortgage rates. A couple weeks ago, we were looking at 7.2, 7.1. Now we're down to 6.4. So you guys wanted lower interest rates? Congratulations.
Got
Here
him.
they are. So I would be on the phone with every prospective buyer that I had talked to that indicated that they might be on the fence waiting for rates to go down and screen capture this and send it to them.
Yeah.
Let them know that they've gone down and you don't know when they're going to come back up either.
Yep.
So prices, as we
Absolutely.
know, continue to go up. So, take advantage of a dip in interest rates while you can, because you never know how long that will last.
Yep. Absolutely. And I think
So,
that next article you're about to hit on right there is the other side of this, right? So we got kind of what we wanted. We got that. But now, how are people in the media going to start talking about it, right?
right. Well, it's really interesting because when inflation is going up, 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 that means the economy is doing great. The downside of an economy doing that great and being that hot is that prices go up.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are spending, uh, businesses are making a lot of money. They're just pumping product out and people are buying it. So rates of prices are going up. Unfortunately, with that, the interest rates went up as well. So slowing down the economy by raising the interest rates, it actually is starting to work. The strategy that the Fed has had for the past almost 2 years now to raise the interest rates to slow down the economy is working. And now that it's working, people are now worried about going the other direction. They're now worried about a recession.
Yeah.
So the pendulum swings both ways, and it can't do one without doing the other eventually. So this is why they talk about cycles in real estate, right?
Yeah. I thought there was some interesting language in this one, talking about kind of that soft landing, right? And I think that's the perfect visual for it too. We want the rates to come down, and this change right here feels a little intense, right? Because people were predicting a little less of a change from the week, but um, I think it's still you got to know these news articles, right? You got to see the headlines because sadly,
Yeah.
that's the society we live in. People are just reading the headlines. And when you use words like plummeting and free fall, what's the vibe you get from that? It's chaos, right? I think that's the scary part of this. There's some overreaction in the markets, the way that people are talking about them. I think this still sticks to the message we've been saying, though. You want to keep an eye on the volume that's going to be coming in. So, yes,
Yeah.
we're now going to be able to use these lower rates. Hopefully, that will start and get people moving again. They'll start considering listing because they see that being a little more acceptable in the range that they wanted. But more than ever, you need to make sure your clients are prepared, right? Make sure you know how to settle them down from what they're reading in these headlines. And remember that the headlines are for clicks. The
Right.
opinions are one in a million. Everyone's an influencer now, right? So just stay the person that knows the facts, that can defend why this is still a great investment, right? Especially in our amazing surroundings here in Atlanta.
Right. And the bottom line is this is good news. This is
Yeah.
good news that jobs aren't growing like they were, because that means the economy is starting to slow down, which we needed to do to get inflation down. So, but the other side of that is that, more people will be unemployed. So it's a fine balance because it's kind of like a radio dial, right? Like if you're turning it and turning it to try to get it to the right place. And it's very rare that they land exactly where they need to without a slight overcorrection. So I think we're going to see a little bit of this, and the stock market always reacts quickly and then it bounces back. Like, just everyone should take a breath and just realize, like, this is actually, in the big picture, very good news, because interest rates are becoming lower, which means that um, the effect of increased prices is lower and affordability is growing. So people are going to be able to afford something where they might not have, 3 months ago.
Yep.
But I do find it interesting that interest rates have been dropping for the past, 6 weeks, and they're just now starting to talk about it in the news.
Yeah.
So there's always that lag. So it's just important to stay in touch with what's actually happening.
And that's what we do here at Industry Update every
That's
week.
right. The another article, just because it's probably worth mentioning, that Zillow has put out 24 state compliant touring agreements. I went online and downloaded one. It's pretty simple. But what they're basically doing is allowing their people to agree to $0 in compensation for 7 days. So, not sure that's great for uh, agents at Zillow, but it's one way to handle what's going on. I think a better way to handle it is to know your value proposition and be okay asking for compensation for the work you do.
Yep. I think we're doing a great job with our brokers and our education in our offices of learning how to use that a little more in detail and a little bit more as a professional than going with that, like kind of what Zillow's doing, right? I mean, it kind of
Right.
is a coverall, but why do they do that? Because a lot of their agents aren't being trained the way that we are. So,
Right. And they're finding it easier to do that than to actually teach them how to have value conversations. And they don't have the value as much to offer because they're salaried people that typically don't sell a lot on their own. So they may not have the expertise that a solo agent out in the field has.
yep. I will say in it, they do mention, or one of their quotes is what we've been preaching and saying, right? Remember that the big picture of why we're dealing with this is to kind of take that, the sketchiness out of what we do. What we do is not
Right.
sketchy.
Great
We are
transparency.
transparency. Yep. So they did say, we want to remain focused on the real estate industry, who we serve, and that's the buyers and the sellers. So as
Yep.
long as they're explaining them and you have that good relationship, you should be good.
Absolutely. Well, in this article, there's actually two articles that basically have the same headline.
Mhm.
One of them is from the Open Door CEO saying the same thing that buyers agent commissions have fallen since the settlement was announced. And I find it interesting that he's commenting on it since his company pioneered the lower commission rates during the pandemic. But I
Yep.
think this just goes to speak to a lot of states out there didn't have buyer agency, and they're having to get used to having buyer agency agreements and having buyer consultations talking about compensation where they've never had them before. I think our state's lucky because we've been having buyer consultations. And yes, we're having to be a little bit more thorough in our compensation conversations, but it's not as big of a shift for us. But clearly, across the country, a lot of buyers agents are freaking out because they don't know how to sell their value. Um, so they're ending up reducing their commission, which may also be a function of listing brokers not offering as much and the buyer's agents not knowing how to have those conversations.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the key word in these articles is kind of these top of mind, right, discussions. They do point that some sellers are asking more questions now, right?
Yeah.
And we're seeing it. Some of our top agents are hearing questions from people that they never thought they would, right? Oh, I've
Mhm.
done so many deals, I've worked with the family, but now it's someone's asking the question. They've seen the headlines. They're keeping up with the news, right? And so they're
Right.
saying, do we even have to offer buyer compensation now, right? So they
Right.
may be freaking out. And again, y'all know it. We've said it. Value, 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 right? Are you presenting your value? How are you doing it? And the value of offering a buyer's compensation. However you decide to describe that, right? Is it marketing or attraction? That's your choice, but it's the value, value, value.
And I think you have to be confident to present your value.
Yeah,
You can't show weakness and you're like, well, like you cannot stutter through this conversation because it'll be clear that you don't believe in your value. So why would they? Right. So I
yep,
think
and
it's really important that you get really comfortable, every agent get really comfortable answering these questions. Like,
yeah,
should I offer a buyer's agent commission if we're talking to a seller? Right? Let's talk about that. And let's talk about attracting the widest number of buyers that
yeah,
are working with a professional real estate agent, because that's what we want. And
yeah,
how we attract those buyers is by offering a compensation that doesn't place undue burden on them to come up with additional expenses. Right.
yep. And again,
So,
I think these articles show us that a change is coming, y'all. I think there's also some misinterpretation out there. I've heard of some brokers and brokerages acting like, no, we'll be fine, nothing changes. It's not true. There is a change coming, but it's not whether we are valuable in a transaction or we merit a salary. It's a change on how we present and if we can show the consumer again our value, right? If you
right.
can't, the change is you'll be leaving the industry. Those agents will
Yeah.
be leaving the industry. And I know in your office over there in town, y'all are doing scripts to your point. That's important, right? That's how you build that confidence. Let's build that confidence amongst our peers, here at Heart of Atlanta, and do the scripting, whether it's, in a group or you get a one-on-one. I think that's where you get that confidence. What do you think, Mark?
Absolutely. Yeah. Sharing that information, how other agents are handling these conversations so that you can hear different ways to approach it so you can be confident in the way you approach it.
Yeah,
I think it's really important for all of us to understand that um, the iBuyer model, we were all scared that that was gonna like, oh, it's coming, it's gonna take over, and
yeah,
agents are gonna be irrelevant. I think the biggest takeaway from that whole trajectory with iBuyers and what they've done over the past 5 years is that they can't replace real estate agents and market knowledge like an agent that works in the market can. That
yeah,
they just don't have that expertise. So what I've realized is agents are always going to be essential. And you have to understand that you're essential and how you add value so that you can articulate it. And if you can articulate it, you will continue to make as much or more. In fact, I have a bunch of agents in my office that are making more now than they've ever made before because people are choosing higher options because they're going in and saying, I have the 3%, 4%, and 5% options. Here's what I do for each. Which would you prefer? And they have people picking the 4 and 5% options on the listing side. On the buyer side, people are picking that 3% option all day long and not even asking the question about reducing it because they're going in and saying, here are the circumstances under which I can offer you a lesser commission. If you're a landlord and you bring your tenant to me and you say, my tenant wants to buy this. Sure, I'm happy to do that for a transaction fee and I don't represent either party. I'll put the deal together, right? So having those scenarios laid out and giving the consumer choices helps them feel like they don't have to negotiate.
yeah. I mean, we talk about this recently in team meetings. So if you have to have major surgery, right, or you have to go into a big legal matter, what's the first thing you do? You're researching who is the top at the game, right?
Right,
Who's at the top of their game? Who knows the most? Who's the biggest talent, right, in that? And they're gonna try. I mean, people travel to different states, countries to find the best surgeon, the best attorney, right? And they pay more for it. Why are we not in that class? And that's what I
right.
think this is unveiled, is the opportunity to show them, hey, I've been in this for 20 years. I know what I'm talking about in this area and what I do. Let's sell it. That's it.
Yeah. And there's no reason a new agent can't go in with the same kind of expertise because you have the resources as a new agent to do a really great job and help your clients at a high level because you have resources. You have your coach, you have your team leader, you have your broker. Like there are a lot of resources for you. And in some cases, you have a mentor as well.
You're an
So
extension.
just know like you're in a great position to be able to demonstrate your value to your clients, but you have to believe in it yourself.
100%.
So another article, Manny, that we looked at was, and let's see if I
Yeah.
can get the headline there. Luxury
Exciting.
home prices hit a new high. More starter homes now cost more than $1 million. Um, this is definitely true in some of the higher price markets. I mean, I don't see starter homes here costing 1 million in Atlanta, Metro Atlanta, but you do see that in California. You see it in New York. You see it in Chicago. So, like, there are a lot of markets where this is the case, and prices are tending to continue to grow in most markets. So, I think this is a new reality, and affordability is going to continue to be a problem.
Yeah, I mean, not only and it's a hard one, right? Because there's the problem side of it, and then there's also the opportunity side of it. I
Right,
thought one of the interesting things here is we're looking at California is like 100 and something of those cities, right? Where the it's gone up. I think it
right,
said 5 years ago only 84 cities in fit the criteria, right, of the typical starter home being 1 million or more. Now it's 237 cities, with about 100 and something of those being California. What I love about that is as we conference and we go to family reunion, we hear from people all over the nation. We see that, we follow trends sometimes to what happens in these major cities. Atlanta being that unicorn that is just kind of running ahead here. I have seen where you get people that are buying that starter home in the ones where it used to be a little bit more of like, ooh, luxury, top luxury. Now it's sometimes it is that luxury price for a starter
Yeah.
home. I think the interesting part of this is to stop and have a conversation about who is buying some of these, right? Because the numbers are rising even in Atlanta with the
Yeah.
sales and the listings of these luxury properties. I think there's something to say about keeping your eye on investors, right?
Yeah.
Those investors are coming in from all over and they are not just looking at LA and New York anymore, right? They're seeing that value in luxury homes going up here in Atlanta. I think after that 2022, 2023 slump that we had, this could be a sector for especially our luxury agents out there to keep an eye on and see who's buying these and who can you market to, right?
Right.
Mika saying million has a different value than it used to. Yep, absolutely. You're right.
Well, the other thing is when you look at these prices, I mean, Atlanta's median luxury home is 1.265 million. You skip down to New York at 3.2, Miami at 3.1, Los Angeles at 3.4. So you look at these other cities, even Phoenix is 1.6. So Atlanta is still a pretty affordable market relative to the rest of the country, which is why we continue to grow because a lot of people are moving from these higher price markets to Metro Atlanta. So I only see an upside for us.
Yeah, and there was something in here too about this spring, 43.7% of luxury homes sold were purchased with all cash offers, right? That's why that was my first little red flag of who's buying these, right? Is it
Right.
your average Atlanta salary person? Probably not. It's
Right.
an investor coming in. And y'all think about just, again, real estate just makes sense with the world, right? So Atlanta now attracts what? The World Cup coming up. We get Taylor
Mhm.
Swift comes here for 3 days and Atlanta shuts down and people take off work and they're guess what? All these people are coming in and Airbnb luxury homes, right? These beautiful homes it's a vacation for them. This is a treat. This is a special occasion. They're coming in. More and more, we see concerts at Mercedes Benz or we have shows at the Fox. People, these are investments, right? And we're becoming that type of city. So think about who your audience is, who you're marketing to, because you could be ahead of the curve on this.
And I think, Brett talks about the tale of two agents. Like this is a tale of two markets for sure, because there's the higher end market and then there's the lower end market. And I feel like there's a wealth gap in most major cities, particularly in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And there's a lower end that's struggling to be able to afford housing. And then there's the higher end that's doing great and they're, buying and increased level of homes every time, and they keep growing, growing, growing in the price that they're buying. So like that middle is sort of shrinking.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah. There's opportunity
important
in
to
both.
understand
You
the
have to you
both
have to
ends,
figure it out. Yeah.
you
I
know.
think that's a great point. Mika mentioned, Mark, Diana Kokoska. We recently had a top 10% event, right?
Yep.
And she quoted her right there. We interpret the data. You've got to become that professional.
Right.
I think it's great that you brought her up, Mika. I think I see a lot of people on here that were on that call because y'all, the top 10% knows to show up and what's important, right? Where there's value. I think it's if any of y'all have any comments on what you took away from that, Mark, I know I kind of wanted to share a little bit because
Yeah.
it is in a world where we're getting crazy headlines and these overreactions, right?
Right.
For us as real estate agents, it is so important to take care of ourselves and look at that big picture, that mindset. And I think Diana just really hit that.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I
you know,
love how she framed out what Mika's talking about, which is, I don't create the market, I just interpret the data.
yeah,
So to say like, look, don't get mad at me. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm the one that's helping you understand where you are in the market,
yeah.
right? So being that trusted consultant and professional and advisor to help people make good real estate decisions, regardless of where they're at in that spectrum.
Yeah. And she talked about that market wise, right? She did a really great job of being able to talk about that sales, that market side. Are you going to be the hunter or the gatherer? It's that time right now. We were the gatherer when all of this boom happened after, COVID, right? I mean, I
Mhm.
had calls coming in from here and there. And then as soon as I closed one, they were referring me to the next person and they were coming in. I was just gathering. But now we got to be hunters. We're looking at expireds again, figure out, you just said, go visit. those for sale by owners, those
Hmm.
expires. We're going out of our way now. We got to be hunters. And I think on the mental side, I love it stood out to me when she talked about sometimes as top producers, right? And really in any level of real estate, but especially when you kind of think you hit it. Maybe it was that you just got into real estate and you hit that 5 million mark and you're like, yeah, I'm doing it now, right? Or you've hit 10 and that's where you thought you wanted to be. She mentioned, are you holding on to first base and not even knowing that you haven't hit the home run yet, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That was big for me because are you at your potential? And I think my experience is we fall into that. We think we've made it or we think we're using everything to the max, but it can be improved, right? And I think it's big on who we surround ourselves with. If you surround yourself with others that are
Right.
gonna keep striving, right? There you
And
go.
people that challenge you, right? So people that challenge you to think bigger, think differently, and approach your business differently so you can continue to grow.
Yeah.
Mika, what you got?
Something I've taken from this in the slowdown is don't be discouraged right now when the volume may not be where it has been because it's our opportunity to regroup and to come up with a different strategy and use the time wisely to prepare for what's to come. So, getting our stats together, getting our marketing together, our messaging, our branding are the things that we should concentrate on right now because the quiet time is when we're able to prepare for the louder time. So, like that triangle she showed us when it comes to our personal growth and our business growth, analyze where you are right now and where the opportunities are to grow and work on that and in that. So when the time comes, you're prepared and you're playing offense instead of defense. So that's what I took from her for the biggest takeaway.
Love that.
Ooh, Mika was listening. I love it. I love it.
Mika's
Yeah.
always listening.
See, I love it. Anyone else have any kind of takeaways from it? I know there was a lot of stuff mentioned there. Again, that perfect mix of between business and then kind of that mental, right? And the encouragement.
Hmm.
Uh,
Well, and it sort of also makes me think about the D's in real estate. And, people are buying because of life events right now, right? So are you in touch with your clients enough to know what's going on in their world? Are you stalking them on social media to understand what's happening in their world? Are you talking to them? Death, divorce, diapers, all of the D's are the things that are making people buy right now. So if you know someone's having a baby, make sure you're in conversation with them and talk to them about their space. Do they need more space? If someone had someone pass away and leave them a property, what are they going to do with that? Do they need a referral to someone in that state? Right? Like, see how you can support them in whatever D they're going through. And then B, the other side of that is what are you doing to attract people who are going through any one of those particular D's?
yeah.
Right? What are you doing? Do you have something for like a home buying seminar for couples that are getting married? Are you doing a first time parent, first time home buyer seminar, right? What to look for when you're buying a home as a new parent. Like, think about how you can create seminars around life events to attract people to you that are going through those deeds.
Mark,
And
uh,
just going back to a bold law, what you focus on expands. It truly does happen. A few weeks ago, I concentrated on the D of diamonds and talked
Mhm.
about diamonds in my Monday talk. And I had two people reach out to me who are getting married. So the message that I put out there, I attracted those people to me. So what you focus on expands and concentrating on the D's. And again, going back to offense versus defense, giving people something to think about helps toggle their brain and makes them think about you when those events happen. So that's
Correct.
what I'm honing in on right now. Every time I'm going on social, it's something around one of those D's to help people think about, well, maybe I am getting married. Well, and I had somebody who's going through divorce. Same
Hmm.
difference. somebody who's having a baby. These are the things that we talk about, and those are the people who will be drawn to you because the mind is powerful, and we've got to remember that.
Top of
Absolutely. And putting
mind,
it
top
out
of
there for people to latch on to your point, is a great way to attract those people to you. And then you're going to be looking for the opportunity because you're focused on it.
That's it. I love
Awesome.
it. I love it.
Love it, Mika. Thanks for sharing that. And I love that you're being proactive with your business. And I know a lot of you are. And the more you can focus on those D's right now, um, I don't see the real estate market changing except for maybe these, slight decreases in interest rates over the next couple of months. So there is going to be opportunity out there for buyers that maybe were sidelined for a little bit. And there's not going to be a flood of inventory that changes the supply demand dynamic anytime soon. So really focus on those D's because that's never going to steer you wrong.
Yeah. And I wanted to kind of leave this one on one final note here. There was four voices in your head that Diana talked about. All right. There was the devious one, the flattering one, the reasonable one, but the one she said that we need to hold on to and develop is that empowering voice. And I think all of us could use so much of that right now. Just sitting here again, talking to Mika, right? The takeaways she had, the excitement around what the opportunities are in our industry. That's it. And however you need help finding that empowerment, you got us here, right? You got your Heart of Atlanta fam.
That's
So
what your leadership team is here for.
exactly. All
Awesome.
right.
All right. Well, we're going to head out at 11:30. So have a great day and thanks for being here.
Have a good one, y'all.